Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Executive Director Podcast. My name is Becky Caldwell, and I'm your host. I'm an executive coach for creative souls, and I can hardly wait to bring you this week's episode. Here we are, sliding into the back half of 2020, and I am finally ready to announce my new coaching program for creators. It's called The Labyrinth. This is a program specifically for creators, creative entrepreneurs, and creative souls. This is a one-on-one program, so it's you and me directly for a minimum of 3 months. I use the mantra of the labyrinth, which is release, receive, return, to guide our sessions. So far, my most successful clients have come to me when they are building or birthing something new, and they need to shed old habits, old beliefs, old thought patterns in order to fully realize their new creation. If this sounds like you, fill out the application linked here in the show notes. And if I think we're a good fit, I'll contact you to schedule a quick call. And guys, don't worry about the call. It's not a high-pressure sales situation because I'm the one interviewing you. If not for COVID-19, this week would have been the opening of the 72nd Annual Virginia Highlands Festival, where I serve as the executive director. Well, we had to cancel the festival this year, and understandably, but I thought this might be a good time to rerun the episode of the lessons I've learned in 20 years of festival producing. Now, 21 years. But it's a rerun. So here we go. This week on the podcast, I'm going to talk about the lessons I've learned from 20 years in festival producing. Can you believe that? 20 years I've been producing festivals. I pegged the date as March 15th, 1999, because I think that was my first day on the job at the Chicago Humanities Festival. So shout out to any friends from that festival that might happen to be listening now. Man, we're like war buddies. I remember we would get together for drinks now and then after I left the organization, and several of us had moved on. We would hold like reunions periodically when something major would happen in one of our lives. So it was a formative period, and I've learned a lot from that and the many festivals I've produced since then. I'll be honest, this is the best job ever because my job is to create the most amazing time you can have in like a 1 to 3 to 10 day period of your life. And I cannot imagine doing anything else. Like I will never retire from this. I will be doing this. You will have to like pry a daily schedule out of my cold, dead hands by the time all is said and done. So I thought that this would be a great time for me to share a few of the lessons I've learned along the way. Now, there are just an infinite number of lessons that I've learned in this lifetime of festival producing, but I'm going to share just 4 or 5 of them. And I may think of some others as I go, but these are 4 of the lessons that popped into my head that I think might be different from what you're expecting. So I'm going to start with the first lesson, and that is that it takes, and this one's very practical, very, very tactical. So this is for event planners out there. It takes 40 hours of planning time for every 1 hour of event time. And yes, I did measure this while I was working at the Chicago Humanities Festival. I like my boss wanted to know why it took so long to do something. And we did about 250 programs during an 11-day festival. So I did find it takes about 40 hours of planning time for every 1 hour of event time. Now that's not just, that's across people. So, that's taking into account writing up marketing, putting a website entry together, communicating with the volunteers, that sort of thing. So it's not just in like booking the person or just like doing a walkthrough of the space and then the actual event itself. Oh no, it's 40 hours of planning for every 1 hour of event time. So keep that in mind as you are planning an event. So if you're planning, like, let's say a run, a 5K as a fundraiser for your organization, the event begins at registration. So from the moment you open up for registration through the end of the after party, let's say you have a 4-hour event window. That's going to take you 160 hours of planning time. Now, you're not going to be able to spend every minute in a row working on this because you're going to send out emails and need to wait for a response or wait for people to call you back. And so just know that just because you have like 4 weeks of planning ahead of you, it's going to take a lot longer than that in real time stretches because you're going to be waiting for people to get back to you. So plan accordingly and make sure you've got enough people and time allotted for getting it all together. The next lesson I learned is and this is about volunteer management. So if you are asking for volunteer help, you better have your act together. Look, I have planned events, planned festivals that utilize volunteers, and I've been a volunteer at many events. The quickest way to lose a volunteer is to not be ready for them. It's just embarrassing and uncomfortable to show up for a volunteer shift and have the person on the other side of the desk say, "Oh gosh, I don't know where to put you," or "I don't know what to do with you." Like, well, then why am I here? I feel like I've just wasted my time. And it's even worse if you're in like an urban situation where you have to pay for parking or parking's tricky and you had to navigate through traffic to get down there, and suddenly you're out time and money and the effort that you made to be there. And they're like, "Well, I don't know what to do with you." Oh my God, have it together. Have it together. Be ready for your volunteers. Put the same amount of thought and care into onboarding them for what you need as you would with a new hire. We need volunteers. The going rate for volunteer labor is, I think it's between $23 and $24 an hour. So think about that. If you were paying a consultant $24 an hour, would you be ready for them when they showed up? I think you would. So treat your volunteers the same way. Third lesson, this is my personal favorite. It's okay to put yourself in timeout. It's okay to put yourself in timeout, you guys. Events are stressful. Festivals are especially stressful. So it's okay if you're feeling the pressure and feeling overwhelmed. You can call it meditation time because meditation is a form of timeout. But before you blow up at the 17th person to ask you directions to a place that is clearly on the Google map on the front page of your website, just take a minute and instead remove yourself from the situation. I find it helpful too to just not answer the phone. Actually, I think you've heard me say this on the podcast before, that it's the closer it gets to festival time and the more pressure that's on me to get things done that need to be done, the less inclined I am to be nice to somebody when they call and say something like, "Tell me about your festival." Oh my God, I just want to scream when someone does that. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault that I'm stressed out because I have 90,000 things I have to do in the next 10 minutes. They just want to know more about this cool event that they heard about. But I am not in a mental place to respond well to that. And so I just let it go to voicemail, and then call them back, or I have a volunteer come and return those calls for me. If they're not able to answer the phone right away, they do return those calls for me. So it's okay to put yourself in timeout. The next thing I wanted to talk about is this idea that failure is not an option. It's inevitable. Things will go wrong because you are dealing with human beings, and you're dealing with the weather and any number of other things that you have zero control over. And here's something that if you're just starting out in this business, you're going to learn this over the next few years. And those of us who are veterans, you're going to smile with recognition when I say that of all the things that could go wrong that you planned for, literally anything else will be what goes wrong this time. So if last year the location of your concert tent got flooded, and so you moved it this year what's going to happen is that the tent blows away, or the power goes out, or literally anything else that you have not planned for. So it's important to be flexible and to not freak out completely when the thing goes wrong that there is absolutely no way you could have anticipated. Just know that it is going to go, that something crazy is going to go wrong. Like something completely out of the blue is going to happen to mess up your perfectly planned event. And it just will. So there you have it. The last thing I want to share with you is a couple of magical phrases for when someone makes a suggestion to you that is the most crazy thing you would never in 100 million gabillion years ever consider doing it, taking their advice, or implementing this stupid thing. Okay, not stupid. Well, yeah, sometimes ideas are stupid. The stupid thing that someone just suggested to you. Or maybe someone's giving you feedback and you're just not in a mental place to hear it. And that's okay. It's important that they give you the feedback, and you don't have to absorb it right at that minute because, maybe you're trying to deal with the tent that just blew away. So I'm going to give you 2 magical phrases to keep in your back pocket for these moments. Okay, you ready? And you might want to write these down. So grab a pen, or get to where you can screenshot this part of the podcast so you can see the time signature. And I'm going to give you these magical phrases right now for when someone makes a batshit crazy request or suggestion to you. Number 1, we'll look into it. I love this one. I learned this one from Happier with Gretchen Rubin and her sister, Elizabeth Kraft. Her sister said that this is something that they say in Hollywood all the time when they're getting feedback on a script or a story or a pitch. We'll look into it is the magical phrase. And then the second magical phrase I learned from John Acuff. And here it is. You might be right. I love this. You might be right. You might be right. Practice saying it over and over with different inflections. You might be right. These 2 phrases, the reason why they're so magical is they validate the person who is coming at you. It says to them, I hear you. What you're saying is valid because you're a human being. And I'm not going to just blow you off, but I'm blowing you off right now because I cannot deal with your crazy at the moment. So we'll look into it, and you might be right are 2 phrases to keep in your back pocket. They are magical. They buy you time to research the idea that's just been pitched to you, because it might actually be something really great that you want to implement, but there is no way you can implement it right now or this year during this iteration of what you're doing. So but you will look into it. Maybe it could be super cool. And what I love about you might be right is it completely disarms the person who is complaining to you right then. And so, yeah, you might be right. I mean, they might be. They also might not be, but they might be. And you want to leave yourself open to taking their suggestion if they are right. And so those are 5 or so things that I've learned in my 20 years of festival producing. Thank you. Big thanks to everyone who has supported me along the way with my work at the Chicago Humanities Festival, the Chicago Improv Festival, Spontaneous Combustion Atlanta, and our Detroit iteration, which was SponCom Motor City, and the food and wine festivals I've worked on. What other festivals? Oh, yes, the Virginia Highlands Festival. Thank you so much for listening this week. If you liked this podcast, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Becky Brett Caldwell for daily inspiration, information, and support. I've started doing daily Labyrinth Oracle card readings to inspire and guide my community. I mean, I may be new to the woo, but it turns out I'm pretty good at this. So of course I want to share it with you. More big changes are coming to the podcast, which I'll announce in August. But for now, enjoy the journey. And remember, you can lose yourself in a maze, but you can find yourself in a labyrinth.